Hi, this is Stolen Homes of Logan number 2. To explain what was going on in Logan at this time, I prepared a little itinerary. And this is the itinerary that's part of my federal lawsuit 146880. In 5/15/1985, in an article in the Philadelphia Daily News, the Commissioner of Illinois said the area has been monitored continually. So they knew about a problem in 1985. In 8 of 85, August, a mortgage note from the Commissioner of Records says that 1038 West Wyoming, the aforementioned property, was sold to the person before me. In 9/14/86, there's an article in the Philadelphia Inquirer that quotes, the city started warning potential buyers in 8 of 86. They knew something was wrong. They didn't say anything or do anything. That is why they have the responsibility to the people in the area to make them whole. Now, this is from Eugene Williams from Logan's Steering Committee. Among other sellers of the most stress-damaged properties was the Department of Housing and Urban Development, named in my lawsuit. In May of 1986, they sold a dilapidated stone home. Now, this is all in the article. In the 800 block of Roosevelt Boulevard, having serious settlement problems, and it was classified as imminently dangerous. Now, the person who bought it says, and is quoted in this article, you buy a house from the government, and 5 months they throw you out, and it's not right. He invested $8,000 to $10,000 in time and material fixing up the inside since 5 of 1986. It's a similar circumstance in my lawsuit. They sold me a house in 1991, only to try to get it back from me as soon as 1993, when I had invested all the time and rebuilt the house according to government specs. And it had been inspected and passed the inspection. So therefore, I have validation that that I repaired it. But this occurred in 1986, 5 years before they sold me my house. Now, let's continue. In 11 of 86, the Inquirer, the mayor at the time, said the owners of the homes they're sinking would be allowed to sell their home at pre-disaster prices. And this is from Robert P. Casey, governor-elect. He happens to be the father of the current U.S. senator, who happens to hold office. And his office is named in the lawsuit 146880. Okay, now we're on to Map Plan Philly. In 1929 through 98 shows little or no fill at 1038 West Wyoming. Then you have the 86 Lippincott study map in the Inquirer, which I gathered from Congressman Tom Folietta's papers at St. Joe's University, which shows that 1038 is moderately damaged. And in 11/2/86, the Daily News said the mayor stated a plan will leave homeowners no worse off, but no better, as if the subsidence never happened. This is the same mayor that burned down a block in West Philly. The move disaster. I think everybody's heard of that. Okay, now let's move on. So now we know that the senators, the governor, HUD, all the officials that I have named in my lawsuit have had their sticky little fingers in the Logan situation since 1985. And it's well documented in the newspapers, so Lord knows they know about way before that. In The 86 Lippincott study in the Tom Folletta papers, it's quoted sewer lines cracked causing the fill to wash away. This is what's happened in a lot of the older cities, including Allentown, and when sinkholes occur because the sewer department didn't do due diligence and maintain their end of the equation, that's what washed away the soil. The rain falls on the soil then washes into the top of the pipe because the pipe looks more like a U instead of a circle. So therefore the muddy water washes from your lawn into the pipe that runs underneath the lawn and the street and then gets washed away. So therefore, if the top of the pipe is skewed, which is what the normal problem is because that's where the weight is, and the sewer department doesn't do anything to maintain it because it was built 100 years ago, how can they blame me? How can they blame anyone that lived in Logan? I digress. 11/2/86, New York Times, city and federal governments are trying to provide new dwellings to the residents, 950 dwellings at risk. City may install pilings to save the leaners. Both city and federal Department of Housing and Urban Development are making comparable government-owned dwellings with an option to buy available to the residents. Now, at this time, I was not in that neighborhood. I wasn't even thinking about moving into that neighborhood. I was working several jobs because I had young children, and I was trying to pay my bills, like most of you people out there. In 1987, Tom Folletta from the city of Philadelphia, evacuation of all properties to take several months. Now, several months is a few months. We're talking 1987. Again, they sold me the house from an ad in the newspaper in 1991. A few months from 1987, I don't know. Maybe they need to take their socks off to be able to count what a few is. But to me, a few is 3, not 3 years. 3 times 12 is 36. I have more fingers and toes than that. You have to have more fingers and toes than the average person to say that's a few. 2/24/87, Mayor's Office of Communication, from the Tom Folletta file, acquisition and demolition to be completed within 30 months. 30 months. 30 months is a little over 2 years. That is February 24th, 1987. This is a dated document from the Mayor's Office of Communications to Congressman Folletta. Now, they sold me a property in February of 91. So we're talking 4 years, 48 months. So we're talking 18 more months than the 30 months that they were talking about. And the house was still standing. So they didn't even complete the demolition in 30 months like they said. All the while, they're getting federal funding. 3/87, City Department of Records. The gentleman who had the house before me took a new mortgage out on it through First Pennsylvania Bank. Now, this is a critical factor because I was told it was a VA mortgage, that I bought the house from HUD. This was explained to me on the phone by a person that the realtor called up. And in fact, it was a Federal Home Mortgage Corporation that I bought it from. And I saw Federal. I talked to someone who said they were from the federal government, and they assured me that this was an up-and-up property. Now, the reason I bring the First Pennsylvania Bank into this, because First Pennsylvania Bank failed. And when they failed, their mortgage got taken back because it was a government-backed mortgage. and resold to me. So that validates what I was told that was a repo from the federal government. Now, we got 587, the Tom Folletta, Sinking Homes of Logan report, acquisition by corporation to effective house, owners will receive purchase offers based on the appraised value, demolition to occur within a few months. Now we have 8 of 87. There's a new newspaper article saying that 3 years, which would put it in 1990. 787 from the Tom Folletta collection, a letter to Texas Representative Henry Gonzalez, to the HUD secretary, that they were to use HUD grant money to pay the people off. Now, this is a touching part of the story because I was told by a former neighbor that they had, in fact, bought out the guy that owned the property before me. I haven't been able to verify that. But that just adds another twist to the story, that possibly the government had bought out this person, they had taken back the mortgage and decided to sell the property again. And quite coincidentally, there's several articles in 96 and 97 that allude to the fact that they sold over 200 houses, housing and urban development. Now, this article, I believe it was the Chicago Sun-Times, but also there was an article in the Daily News that, quote, even has been suckering unsuspecting buyers, auctioning off homes whose owners had welched on federally financed loans. The city was supposed to force HUD to stop. Now, this is in 1996. This is after they sold me the house. This is after they turned off the water to the community and forced me out of the house, promising to pay me. Now it comes out that they had sold several of the houses in the early 90s to people like me. Again, the newspaper that validifies my story. So anyway, now we are up to the Tom Folletta collection. The city should fill the shallow and should not take the properties away. A report in the Tom Folletta thing says fill is very shallow and has not and should not, but they will take the properties anyway. And that is describing the fill under 1038 West Wyoming, my house. So therefore, they have this neat little triangle that they're going to build a mall at. There's been 4 plans. And their own report is showing that the fill problem doesn't exist too much under this triangle, that there are patches of fill. But because they want to take the whole section and not leave bits and pieces, they should take the whole section. The lie goes to the other side of the boulevard, where there is tons of fill, and they haven't taken a single house. This leads us to believe that there is a possibility that they were taking this land to build a mall. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to follow the money. Okay, we have another article in the Daily News in 1187, now 4 years before they sold me the house. The mayor is working under the assumption that all houses in the triangle will have to be relocated. In 1988, First Pennsylvania Bank is in trouble. From the Tom Folletta collection, the Philadelphia Tribune, Mr. Garnett is still paying a mortgage on the property, and in January he began paying rent. He was forced out of his house. So he had to rent another site. And he is quoted, "What am I supposed to do now? I've called everybody, the mayor's office, OSHA, LAC, the housing director, and nobody has bothered to respond. Hey, I had that same experience. Okay, Tom Folletta collection. Logan Assistance Corp purchased like-kind HUD houses. They allowed some of the people that had FHA mortgages that the government didn't want to eat yet again. They gave them like-kind houses in a couple other sections. But they goofed that up too because they gave it to a special contractor, and there was allegations of corruption. There was allegations of spending too much money. There was all sorts of fraud associated with this story. However, to the people that did not have FHA mortgages, which I was one of them, there was no like-kind property offered. There was only a cash offer, which they never paid. Okay, VA and HUD have foreclosed on more than 30 homeowners. There's a 1989 article. There's another in 1989. First Pennsylvania Bank was acquired by Core State Bank in the federal monitored dissolution of a bank. Now, we're at 89, and I'll continue this on the next video. So therefore, I still haven't purchased the property at this point. There is also a video of me with Larry Mente, his program. He's a very good reporter, very fair, does his research. If you want, watch that also. Thank you for